Sometimes when I'm sitting there watching the news and seeing what's going on in this world, can't help but think that this world is coming to an end. I mean, just society's on a downfall. It's falling apart. There's so much horrible things going on in this world. It's really quite depressing. It's like we're living at the end of times. Or is it? Is it really the end of the world? Stay tuned. That's coming right up here on Drew's Book Reviews. Good day, and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. So, on last month's Viewer's Choice poll, this is the Viewer's Choice review for my reads from the month of June. I put out a poll, and it was actually tied between H.P. Lovecraft's The Call of Cthulhu and Steven Pinker's Enlightenment Now, the case for science, or reason, science, humanism, and progress. So, today's book review is going to be on Steven Pinker's Enlightenment Now. So it's the Viewer's Choice review for the month of June for my June reads. So let's talk about that. But of course, before we get into that, make sure you hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. Join my Discord, Patreon, Bookstagram, all that's going to be linked below. So definitely be sure to go and check that out. So let's talk about Enlightenment Now. So this book is the case for reason, science, humanism, and progress. So this is definitely a book that's based more in the philosophical arguments about the different things that we are dealing with as a society, as a culture, and throughout the world. It talks about the progress of science and technology and social values that we see happening throughout the entire world. Now, of course, if you watch the news, it could look like things are really, really bad in this world. And you know what? There's a lot of really terrible things going on in this world. And there's so much bad happening in this world, it can feel overwhelming sometimes. And it can really just feel like we are coming to the end of days, so to speak. And that is a perception that is very, very common. It's something that we see throughout our news media, our social media, everywhere we look. Terrible, terrible things are happening, and it really can be quite depressing. And it's certainly not to say that these things aren't happening, but Steven Pinker in this book really kind of puts together an argument as to why things maybe aren't as bad as we think they are, and why things are maybe better than we think that they might otherwise be. So this is a well thought out, well reasoned argument about the state of the world that we're in. And when you think about it, the only time we hear about news is when something bad is happening. So we can't really expect our news media to focus on the good in this world and all the great and marvelous and wonderful achievements that have happened as a result of the Enlightenment era, which is the progress and moving forward and bettering humanity as a whole. The news is only going to report on the planes that crash, not the ones that successfully take off and land every single day without harm to anyone. You don't hear that in the news because we only hear about the ones that crash. And because of this reason, because of the way our news and social media works, this tends to be the image of the world that we have. But when we actually take a look at the numbers, when we look at the stats of everything that has improved, literacy rates across the world have improved, education has improved, healthcare is improved, longevity has improved. We're living not just longer lives, but we're living healthier lives. Because of technology and the evolution and progress of technology, I'm able to make this video and share it with you, people that I've never met across the entire world, here on this channel. Because of the progress of technology, that I'm able to share my thoughts and feelings and ideas that I get from these books that I'm reading. And that in and of itself is a miracle. It is absolutely amazing what the progress in these areas have done. Everything from eliminating diseases such as smallpox to dramatically reducing the amount of diseases or how bad things can get with us when we look at the science and technology, the progression of humanity. One of the things that I really liked how we pointed out here is a lot of time we could spend our time worrying about our retirement, whether or not there's going to be enough financial resources for us to live in retirement. And the average person is retiring, in their early 60s, about 62 years old, which a century ago, people were dying in their 50s. And so the thought process to say, hey, maybe we need to step back and really take a look and think about, are things nearly as bad as they feel, as they seem? Are things really bad? So a lot of the things that Steven Pinker does in this book, he definitely takes the position, and it's definitely a very positive outlook, a very positive thought behind what is going on in this. And I really like how that is done. It's a very positive viewpoint in the world. And honestly, when we're reading books today, if you're reading nonfiction books about the social, political issues and global issues that are affecting us in our everyday lives, it could be so depressing. There are so many books. It's easy to find a book that's going to have a very negative doomsday scenario about it out there, and there are plenty of them. And so that seems to be the more common type of read when we're looking at the modern day problems, philosophy, and politics going on in this world. But this one is very different. It has a very positive outlook on the world and how things are going as a whole, and I really enjoyed that about it, because it is so refreshing to have a more positive outlook, to really grasp the numbers and understand that things are in fact getting better, while still acknowledging that yes, we have problems. There is a growing divide between the ultra rich and those that are poor and not as well off. There is definitely a growing financial divide between those two groups of people. But as Steven Pinker points out, that yes, that is getting a bigger gap. That doesn't necessarily mean that the poor are actually worse off now than they have been in the past. That in reality, much of the poor, especially in the developed world, are the same people that are going onto Twitter with their smartphones to talk about and complain about how bad the divide between the rich and poor is, which is just funny when you think about it, because the people who were the worst off 50 or 60 years ago could never have imagined having this technology at their fingertips, or even being able to afford it, if that even existed. So it's definitely not to say that there isn't a growing divide. It's not to say that problems don't exist. It's not to say wars don't exist, or racism, or sexism, or religious zealots and crazies, and religious extremists and political extremists. It's not to say that these things don't exist, only that putting it in perspective, that yes, we still have problems, but we're so much better off than we have been historically and in the past, and it continues to get better. And I love that aspect about a very positive viewpoint. If you need more of the uplifting, positive book about the progress and the future, this is definitely a book that you might want to pick up and take a look at. I really enjoyed reading it, and I love that positive focus in this book with Steven Pinker's Enlightenment Now. And on that note, I just want to wrap up this review and kind of share a little bit from the end of the book, the wrap up of the book, that kind of summarizes very effectively a good thing to keep in mind, and the kind of perspective that maybe we should strive for. Remember your math. An anecdote is not a trend. Remember your history. The fact that something is bad today doesn't mean it was better in the past. And remember your philosophy. One cannot reason that there's no such thing as reason, or that something is true or good because God said it is. And remember your psychology. Much of what we know isn't so, especially when our comrades know it too. Keep some perspective. Not every problem is a crisis, plague, epidemic, or existential threat, and not every change is the end of this, the death of that, or the dawn of post-something era. Don't confuse pessimism with profundity. Problems are inevitable, but problems are solvable. And diagnosing every setback as a symptom of a sick society is a cheap grab for gravitas. The case for Enlightenment Now is not just a matter of debunking fallacies or disseminating data. It may be cast into a stirring narrative, and I hope that people with more artistic flair and rhetorical power than I can tell it better and spread it farther. The story of human progress is truly heroic. It is glorious, it is uplifting, it is even, I dare say, spiritual. It goes something like this. We are born into a pitiless universe facing steep odds against life-enabling order and a constant jeopardy of falling apart. We were shaped by a force that is ruthlessly competitive. We are made from crooked timber, vulnerable to illusion, self-centeredness, and at times astounding stupidity. Yet human nature has also been blessed with resources that open a space for a kind of redemption. We are endowed with power to combine ideas recursively, to have thought about our thoughts. We have an instinct for language, allowing us to share the fruits of our experience and ingenuity. We are deepened with the capacity for sympathy, for pity, imagination, compassion, commiseration. And the story belongs not to any tribe, but to all of humanity. 20-sentient creature with the power of reason and the urge to persist in its being, for it requires only the convictions that life is better than death, health is better than sickness, abundance is better than want, freedom is better than coercion, happiness is better than suffering and knowledge. It is better than superstition and ignorance. I think that this book is just a really awesome, uplifting read. Check it out. I definitely encourage you to do so. So those are my thoughts on Steven Pinker's Enlightenment Now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And of course, until next time, keep on reading. Bye!